Afternoon. I'm slowing down to speed up, Jim. So this is something you say to me, or have said to me quite a lot over the years, and subsequently I say it to people now as well because I get it. But
Absolutely.
everybody's just so fast paced and in such a hurry to do things and get places, and sometimes it's better just to take that step back and really think about what you're doing and approach it
Yeah,
like methodically.
every single time. That's essentially. You're absolutely right. Slowing down to speed up is a mantra I've actually lived by for a lot of years, and it's only because over all these years I've been working in manufacturing as an accountant, as a what I got called was a profit engineer
Hmm.
eventually, because I was able to see processes and systems and actually work out straight away how to make them more efficient. And by making them more efficient, you got higher yields and you
Yes.
got better results. But the things I learned over the years of my personal experience in there was it was always a case that you had, it was always a case that slowing down to speed up was the mantra every single time. The amount of times I would just rush things and make so many mistakes. And we're going to talk about it in here,
Yeah.
about examples of how to avoid that and how to benefit from it as well, and why you want to slow down to speed up. So we're going to talk about that in this show today, the disadvantages, advantages, and also as well the how to go about and do this, because it
Yeah.
really seems like common sense. But do you know the thing about common sense?
Not a lot of
It's
people.
no that common. It's no that common. Common sense just isn't that common. The world is full of educated idiots, and some of them, as I said, just didn't have the common sense at all. But, probably, probably a classic example of that is Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
It's like, how does that guy land on his feet all the time? Now he's with GB News and he's got a huge contract and he's now declaring millions and millions of pounds as a parliamentary candidate for the lectures and speeches he does. It's like the guy's an idiot.
I know.
And
He
it's like
wobbled
he's a
something.
buffoon. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you've got to say it yourself then. You've got to say, what is he
He
doing?
must be doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, what is he doing? It must be right. Because there must be something he's doing right in order to create that amount of wealth, in order to generate that amount of activity. There must be some amount of people he's got in his network.
Hmm.
I was saying to the team this morning in sales, do you know your success is in direct correlation to the number of people you speak to?
Yeah.
I'll say that again. Your success is in direct correlation. In other words, there's a perfect relationship between how successful you're going to be by the number of people you actually speak to, especially in sales, every
Yeah.
single time.
That makes sense because I think the more you speak to people and put yourself out there and you're recognized and people associate you with your related field, then you will ultimately become more successful.
Just anything. You never know where it's going to happen for you. I've known so many businesses that have actually started out of, just out of thin air, just out of nothing, because of the amount of people spoke to at the time. Take, for example, the Queensferry Sea Life Centre.
Mm-hmm.
So, Sea Life Centre,
See what
Queensferry. Most people don't know how that actually came about, but it's been hailed as a huge success for marine life, and and also for the Sea Life Centre itself. But most people don't understand how that came about, and literally it was just an idea, and the person that had the idea was talking to someone at a network event, a business network event, talking to someone about the vision he had for this ultimate marine and where it was going to be, potentially where it was going to be. That was the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, somebody was walking past at that moment. He was talking to someone about it. And that guy actually stopped and went, "Whoa, wait a minute. I like the sound of that. And I've got the perfect place for that." And that's how it ended up where it was, because
Mm.
that person knew the place it was meant to go, whereas the other person had no idea, but he had an idea about where he wanted it to be. But because that conversation took place, and this was only by chance of the number of people he spoke to, so many people, Gino Benedetti, most people don't know Gino Benedetti, but that's the father of Benedetti, the violinist. You know,
Right.
the famous violinist. That's her father. He was an entrepreneur, and I remember sitting at an event in Fife actually. Gino actually got up and spoke about your click when you click your stretch, your sticky. you know, to your cellophane to put over
Oh,
your meals
yeah.
and that,
Mhm.
and to keep it all fresh. You know that click thing? It actually cuts it.
Mhm.
That was his pattern. He actually came up with that. He actually came up with that. So simple. That simple pattern, and also on your other ones as well. But there was another one he did originally where he made all his money. He actually went round all the. He was walking around. You know, he was trying to pitch ideas to different manufacturers at the time, and he was walking around one day and he noticed some of the bins, and in the bins when he was raking through them, yes, he was raking through the bins. It'll tell you a lot actually what you can help with people with. He noticed there was a hell of a lot of gloves that were getting chucked in the bins. Now, he was like, there's nothing wrong with the gloves. Surely they could get reused. But what they said was they can only use them once because of the chemicals and everything that was on them. Now, he worked out with the manufacturers. He said, I tell you what, if I work out a way how to clean these gloves back up so you can use them again at a more cost-effective cost than actually having to replace them, would that be something you're interested in? And you're damn right we would be. And he did. And he made millions out of that, just cleaning people's gloves. And then he looked at other things. He went, if I could do that with people's gloves, what else can I recycle for them? And that's how he made his millions, Gino
Mhm.
Benedetti. But that's Nicola Benedetti. That's the violinist. That was her father. A very renowned entrepreneur, really good at what he did. But I was just gobsmacked. Now, when I saw this invention, I was working in manufacturing at that time. So this is about 30 years ago, and maybe 30 years ago. And that invention never really made it until the last 5 years.
Yeah, because you see it on the TV channels and things.
Absolutely. So you know who he reminds me? He reminds me of Dyson. He reminded me of Dyson because I remember Dyson was on Tomorrow's World and he had his Dyson vacuum cleaner and the cyclone method. And he said, and Dyson was saying, do you know, I've tried to sell this patent and get royalties out of it to
Yeah.
Hoover, to Electrolux, to all these different companies, and nobody wants to know. Nobody's interested in it at all. They're nobody doing it. And at the time in Tomorrow's World, they were actually saying it's like, well, kind of, why do you just do it yourself? And they went,
Just try.
actually, I might do that. And it's like, that's how Dyson came about, because he had come up with this great invention for the cyclone, cyclone suction,
Yeah.
and with the bagless Hoover, and none of the Hoover companies want to buy it, and therefore that's what he came up with. He said, to hell with it, I'll just do it myself then if that's the case. And look at the size of Dyson now. Do you think Electrolux and Hoover and all the rest of it are regretting that decision?
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely, because he just went and did it. But
It's
I tell you
interesting.
what, he couldn't even get it manufactured in this country, and he had to go overseas to get it manufactured because none of the people would manufacture it because they were all linked into the Hoover industry.
Mhm.
So it was a protectionist closed shop, if that makes sense, where everybody just protected what they had already, and they didn't want to change this paradigm about how things worked, how the Hoover
Mhm.
worked. And he thought, I've got a new paradigm. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it myself. So these are the people that you should take inspiration from. The Dysons, the Gino Benedettis, the Bransons, the Sugars. The Jobs, the Wozniaks, the Bill Gates. These are the people inspirational. The Bezos. And people castigate all them, but if you've not got the dreamers of this world, you'll never achieve anything, because these are the people that will change the paradigm for the better to help everyone else. What they do after that's an entirely different story with their wealth, but they
Yeah.
change it for the better. I would say that definitely. You're not telling me that the convenience of having everything delivered to your door now isn't a huge benefit to your lifestyle.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah,
And but you
yet
need to
people say
commend
it's
them.
not fair. It's not fair. He's put everybody else out of business. No, you should have just shifted with that. A great book to read for everybody to read, and it's a really easy one. It's got big writing and it's got big pictures, which is approved for me. It's an easy gig then. Big writing and big pictures on the pages, so there's no much to read. But it's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, Who Moved My Cheese is a fantastic book to read. And that will give you a wake-up call about where you are right now. If it's not happening for you and there's something no exactly right and it's no going right for you at all, maybe Who Moved My Cheese is the book you should read, because it'll be a real eye-opener. You might be the mice that have actually stayed exactly where you are. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject. You should read the book.
Yeah, I mean, I think you do need to commend these people for the fact that they've thought outside the box and used that their initiative and to think differently from everybody else. I mean, you say about like the Hoover and things like that, obviously not wanting to change. I mean, it is, and a lot of that does hold a lot of people back. It's the fear of change, and sticking to what they know rather than progressing and changing how things are for the better.
Look at Timex.
Yeah.
No, everybody will have wind-up watches. Nobody's going to change the battery. Overnight, they're wiped out.
But my watch is, I don't know if you could see that, but it's digital face, but it's still analog.
Yeah. But that just shows you Timex wiped out just overnight. And these are the sort of industries that don't want to change. Look at Kodak.
Mm-hmm.
Kodak. No one's ever going to go digital. You know, there's huge benefits to having film. No one will ever go digital. Are you nuts? It's like, so Kodak never embraced digital at all. They just went, no, we're purists. It's all about film. It's like, yeah, you could be a purist and you can get on your high horse and, you know, pontificate about how great you are. But the reality is, for convenience, everybody else is going to use digital. So you're out of business. And that's why Kodak no longer exists and it was bought over.
Yeah, things moving to digital and the way Amazon's changed how we shop and order and have things delivered. I mean, it might displace other things, but it's kind of part of how things move forward.
Yeah. So this is why the rush. So what we're going to talk about then about the slow down to speed up. This is the exact example. So you can see these companies how they grew in the first instance. A lot of them made a lot of mistakes when they grew. James Watt at BrewDog, you know, there's no doubt about it. You know, a lot of staff actually took him to court and everything like that and castigated him and everything. But BrewDog was momentous in their growth, almost overnight. In terms of how fast they grew, because they had a model, a paradigm that actually suited the public. It was like public ownership. People, fans actually being able to buy into the brand. You know, what's the likelihood that they'll use that brand all the time then? Always. Definitely always, because they own a part of it now through the BrewDog model. And that's where the meteoric rise sometimes has a lot of casualties in terms of doing it. Now, should they have slowed down to speed up? And for most instances, the answer to that is absolutely not. Just go for it. Make all the mistakes on the way and then sort it when you get further on down the line.
Just do it.
Yeah, just do it. Just bloody do it. You know,
we were just speaking of that.
It's a classic. It's just like, for God's sake, just do it. Yeah. It's like, you know, at times it's like banging somebody's head against the table. Just do it, for God's sake. Like, just do it. Stop what I call getting paralysis analysis.
Yeah.
It's so you get paralyzed by the amount of analysis you do because you don't want to start the journey in case you get it wrong. But it's also the fear of success.
Yeah.
What if everybody comes along? But if everybody turns up, holy shit, where am I now? Everybody's turned up, what do I do now? It's like, so I tell you what, I'm just going to keep it tiny. And then nobody turns up and you go, oh, Christ. It's like that was a failure. Well, I'm not surprised. So see how that is. So remember, failure leads to success.
Yeah.
You know, through the failures, you'll eventually get success. If you fail enough times, at some point in time, you'll be successful. You just got to make sure your successes outweigh the benefits of the success outweighs the failures. But slowing down to speed up is what you should be doing later on in that journey. So if you've got that meteoric rise, get on with it, do it, and then sort of start to work on what you're doing in terms of slowing down to speed up. So when you slow down to speed up, so examples for me slowing down to speed up. The amount of times that I used to rush things, for example, analytics, and then I would send them to my boss, and my boss would send them back and go, well, you know these balance sheets you've got and the numbers you've got, because we rounded up to millions when we're doing balance sheets and P&Ls, profit and loss accounts.
Yeah.
So we were working in millions. So in order to round up to millions, you had to round up from 1.5, and it would either go 1 million or it would be 2 million. But if you did 2 million as the roundup, and you did a 2 and a 3 and a 5, sometimes the 2 and the 3 and the 5, when it was rounded up, because you weren't putting whole numbers in, it was just the system was rounding up. Sometimes the 2 and the 3 and the 5 equaled 10, but in actual fact, it was 9, because it was 1.5 and it was maybe 4.5 and it was maybe 2.2, so it actually ended up being 9 in total. But down at the bottom, it actually ended up going to 10. But the other side of the balance sheet, actually ended up being 9. And he was going on, Jim, hold it. Did you check these numbers? Because you take 2 and you take 3 and you take 5, you end up getting it's 10 at the bottom, but you've got 9 because that's what it's totaling up, because it's only, and the roundup looks different. So he says you can't have that looking at a balance sheet. So he says you're going to have to change one of these numbers manually to be either a 2 or a 2 instead of a 3 to get it to come to 9 in that roundup. And I went, okay, I understand what you're saying, but it was my rush to get that to do that. Then he had to send it back to me. And I thought, and then there was another thing I did as well, and then he would send it back to me again, and then another thing I did as well, and he'd send it back to me again. And I'm going, Christ almighty, if I'd got this right, if I'd just taken the time, think about that, if I'd just taken the time to actually do to check that, to check it all reconciles, in other words, the total at the bottom equals the total of the numbers, to check everything else it was sent back for in the first place, then he wouldn't need to keep looking at it. Because remember, this margin director, or my financial director, has now looked at it 4 times and checked it 4 times and wasted effectively 4 times of his time. So I've wasted someone else's time by the mistakes I've made. Yeah. Imagine if you make that mistake and it cascades right through your system. And it's getting spread to a lot of people.
And that'll probably resonate with a lot of people. And it's a lot of people that work in maybe are in industry or whatever they're doing, will have deadlines and things, and they'll have a lot of other stuff going on. And to get to the deadline and submit whatever you need to do, you sometimes you'll rush it. And really, and like you say, it's just going to get knocked back to you. And like, you still need to change this, and this doesn't match up because you've not took the time to sit and methodically like, okay, and double check it or proofread it or whatever it may be, and then send it on.
And at that point, you should have gone to your boss or whoever you're going to report to and say, look, is your deadline critical? If it's not critical, can you give me another half an hour just to check the totals to check some numbers before I give it to you? Because I don't want to give you inaccurate information. You'll get more kudos for that from someone you're passing it on to for doing that than actually just passing them on something that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
This is the classic example of CVs. When people put CVs in, they rush to put a CV in as quick as possible because it's like they think the speed of the CV going in is connected to the success of them getting the job.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, if I see a CV with lots of mistakes in it, I immediately think to myself, that's what's going to go out to the customer. Mm-hmm. So you just go do that to the customer. If you don't have time to correct any of these mistakes and check it, and before it actually sends to me, you're going to do the same with my customer. Therefore, rip, bin.
Yeah.
No use. So it's important to make sure you take that. But then this all comes back to then saying that you maybe should have checked it earlier. You maybe should have taken the time to check it earlier. No damn fine. How many people listening in, self included, Richard, leaves it to the last minute?
Yeah, everybody's guilty of doing it at some point in time.
I don't.
Well,
not anymore.
You're the exception to the rule, Jim.
Yeah. No, but I don't now.
No, because you've learned.
But I used to before. So I've learned from all the mistakes I've made before, and the reason we're talking about it right now is so you don't and everybody else don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point of a wealth creation show. In other words, to show people that the mistakes that I've potentially made before, they don't need to make them to prove that point.
Yeah, that is the purpose of this.
What do I mean by that? They don't need to make them to prove that point. Well, it's amazing. I mean, if I go and jump a hurdle and I jump it from a certain point, and I jump that hurdle and I trip on that hurdle when I'm jumping it, and the other person coming after me, and I tell them, look, don't jump at that point, jump at the point just before and you'll clear that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be amazed at how many people would go, no, I'll just jump at the point that you've done. But it's like, no, do you just want to prove it doesn't work? Why do you not just take my word for it and actually jump at the point I told you to jump at? But there's people out there that are adamant they're going to jump at the point that they wanted to jump at. It's like, no, I'll do it as well. And it's like, they jump the hurdle, they then trip, and I go, told you so.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I had to prove it. It's like, well, why? Could you imagine if it's a real costly mistake?
Do you think that's just human nature, or kind of ingrained in some people to be like that?
Because people just are pedantic enough to actually think that they could do better, even though they know damn fine it's going to happen. It's the classic example is, let's look at a computer game. Okay, so computer games are quite logical. Now, I go back to Dragon's Lair. Dragon's Lair was the first interactive digital computer game, animation, where you moved in certain directions and then it decided what was going to happen after that. Okay? Now, this was very logical. So, what happened in order to master Dragon's Lair, you had to work out, have you put the joystick up? Have you pulled to the side? Have you pulled to the other side? Or have you pulled back? Or have you stayed exactly where you are right now? And it was only one thing that you could ever do in Dragon's Lair. Each time you were faced with something, it would be the right answer. Every other answer was wrong. So all you would do, people like me, is I would just look somebody else playing it, and they would go, I've moved left, or I've moved left. And then they would move left, and then it wouldn't work for them. And I'd go, okay, I don't need to move left there. And then somebody else would come along and go, I've moved up forward. It's like, that worked. Okay, I know exactly what to do at that point. I'll just move forward. So I was smart enough to sit and watch somebody playing a computer game and go, okay, at that point you move forward, at that point you move left, at that point you move right, at that point you don't stay, you stay exactly where you are and you let it happen right in front of you, then you move forward. And that's how to get to your destination as quick as possible in the most efficient manner and the least costly. Because I tell you what, some of the things that people do in business, for example, and even in buy-to-let and property investment, they just want to reinvent the wheel. I've got no intention of reinventing the wheel if the wheel works as it stands. Might make it a wee bit finer and fine-tune it, but I've got no desire to change the model. Maybe an example of this could be some people that insist that they've got to take a house and knock it to bits. Yeah. They've got to knock it to bits to actually be, for some, I've got to just be busy. I've got to be busy. I've got to knock down every single wall in this house. I've got to take everything off the walls. I've got to take everything off the ceilings. I've got to rewire the whole thing. I've got to replumb the whole thing. And it's like, do you really need to do that? Yeah, because I'll get this value. Okay, so what are you going to spend to get that value at the end result? Well, I'm going to get this value. Okay, so if you didn't spend that and just did it up a wee bit and just did some improvements to it with a smaller budget, what value do you think you'd get? Oh, well, I'd get near enough that value, but I'd just be under it by about $5,000. So how much are you spending to get that? Oh, well, how much less are you spending to get that? I'm spending probably about 15,000 less.
Yeah.
That's like, what? Then why are you ripping everything out of the house? What would be the point? It doesn't make it. I've got a recent one here.
Yeah, I've been in a few in the past, and I go in and I'll advise them, but still feel the need
slow down to speed up. Here's a nice one. I was round at somebody's house the other day. They've got a holiday let. Now they'll love the holiday let. They make 25,000 a year net bottom line out of this holiday let. 25,000 a year out of this holiday let. They love staying at it when it's on the off, when it's no filled. So they love staying in it, and it's in the exact same area. So they were wondering, should we do the extension? So the extension, what's the extension going to cost you? 170,000. Okay, 170,000. That's fine. That's a bit pricey for this, but it's in a really good area. So the 170,000, I've got a funny feeling, will be added onto it because they're going to put a dining room. They're going to create a dining room at what was the porch, so it's all year round. And you can use that room. They're going to make the kitchen bigger, so it's going to be usable for that. Then they're going to put this panoramic balcony out the back, glass balustrade and metal, where you can actually come up the stairs outside the back garden onto this balustrade, and you can overlook all the houses to the sea and everywhere. Sea views, and you'll be sitting in the sun all day long. And I said you could even put a wee wooden hut up there if it can hold it. And you could have your wee outbuilding as well up there as well, a wee home office. Nobody can, but planning permission. No, you don't need planning permission for that. You can do anything you want when you get up there. They say, oh, I never thought of that. So 170 grand. And he says, but we're actually thinking about just moving and buying a bigger property. And I went to them, okay, do you know the costs involved in moving then? Oh, no, we just think it might be a good idea and we'll just have less hassle. And I sat and worked out for them, and I sat and worked out on paper for them. I says, do you know the cost to move will literally cost you £110,000 to move? What? Sorry? Why is it £110,000? Well, because you're going to buy a £750,000 house. This house was I think it was 450. I think it was. Yeah. Okay. Just let me check that. Yeah, 450. So 450. We know the house will be 450. So in order to sell that house and buy another house at 750,000, your stamp duty itself is going to work out at about 51,000 for stamp duty. 51,000 thrown in the fire. They're not wanting it now. It's like you can make the bigger house, so and the legal fees involved as well, and then the price of selling as well is going to be that, and then you're going to lose because they might not find their next house where they are because it's quite restricted for another 2 years, so they're going to lose 25,000 on that as well each year because they've now sold the asset,
Yeah,
and they've not got it anymore, so they're losing 25,000. So hence the reason it adds up at 110,000. And I said, so what happens if you then extend? So if you extend, you're going to be out of the game for that extension. So they said 6 months. I went, well, just forecast a year. So extend. So you've got a loss of rent for the 25,000 for the year, net bottom line that you'll get. So it says basically what's happening here, and you're no longer you're outlaying 75,000 as well. So you're outlaying 75,000. 170,000 on the extension. You're 25,000 you're losing by putting the extension in and the income. So it's costing you 195,000 to extend, in essence. So it says, but if you move, it's going to cost you 110,000. So the net effect of that is the extension is costing you 85 grand. Does that sound more palatable?
yeah,
Because you'll have the asset now, you'll not need to move, you'll have complete certainty, and you'll have your extension as well, which you're just trying to get another house anyway, and it's going to cost you 50,000 in the fire. And once you put that in perspective, it's like, no, you should stay exactly where you are and just extend.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
your extension now is only costing you 85 grand in real terms. Opportunity loss,
Yeah,
opportunity gain, risk. All brought into factors. Plus the fact is I don't even know they've got a mortgage. So they've got to get a mortgage for the next house. That's to go on top of that as well for the next house. So that's an even bigger cost. So that'll bring that 85,000 to extend, the net effect, extend even less than what it is. And this is what people don't understand. They could have just jumped into this and actually just gone and done it. But they had the foresight, and this is the key here, they had the foresight to actually slow down to speed up.
and think of
They
it.
had the
Yeah,
foresight to get the answer from me before they started that journey. How many people out there now probably realise that what they've done, they maybe should have slowed down to speed up?
yeah, definitely. There's a lot
And
of
that's
people
what it
that
is.
jump in feet first and don't take the time to think about what they're doing and maybe the financial implications and get somebody like yourself, Jim. I mean, there's very few, if any, agents they'll be able to get in that would give them that
There's
information.
no agent that has that
No.
expertise. Let's be honest. There's no agent that's got a career in manufacturing as an accountant, a cost accountant, a management accountant with
No.
that expertise and that knowledge and processes and systems. So there's no other person, and I don't mean it in a big-headed way. There's no other person like
No,
me
but
that would have
the
that knowledge and
combination of what
expertise.
you've got to offer in terms of
Yeah.
expertise just makes the advice, God, it's
There's
priceless.
no other estate agent out there. There's no other person out there in this estate agent field. It's probably gone from nothing, homeless, unemployed, to retiring at 30 years old, and actually being a millionaire within that period of time when they're retired, and then go on to be a multimillionaire
Mhm.
and still do this. I mean, how many people would do that? How many people would still continue to do this if they're in that position? It's like, to hell with that. I'll go and sit on a beach for the rest of my life. I'll do something else.
Yeah.
But if you love what you do, does it really work? That's what was been said before. I can't remember who said that, but somebody says it. If you love what you do, would you really do that? So how many people have that knowledge and expertise at their hands? And how many people are going to be able to be knowledgeable enough to tell somebody that already? And I would say the answer would be basically zero, apart from myself. Because it's the knowledge and expertise that I bring with me to what I'm doing. So often when I go in to see something, see if I put that person's house. Now think about that. I've just looked at this and saved them almost effectively the net effect on the 85,000 to the 170. I've more or less saved them another 85,000 pound. I've saved them 85,000 pound in their decision. I could charge them 10% to sell their house, and they're still £40,000 better off
Mhm.
because of the knowledge and expertise that I've just given them. And yet people actually look at that and think, I'll just go for the cheapest person. Really? It's like the information I've just given you is almost priceless. It saves you an absolute fortune. But that's these type of people. And if that's how they want to be, they'll probably stay broke for the rest of their life. They'll probably not have the wealth they really could have truly had, because they're not prepared. Because the next stage and journey out of that would have been the next, put their house on, put it on the market, and then I would probably have even got them even more money over the 450,000, because I'm getting that right now.
Yeah.
I've just got 24% over the home report value on another house, and then I've just got another 15% over another one on a house. And yet nobody's getting anything like that now. And I've just taken a house off another agent that's been on for 5 months, and I've sold it in 13 days for the same price as it was on it.
That's crazy, yeah.
And yet the other agent couldn't get it sold, and we've sold it. So what does that tell you? The knowledge and expertise that a person has is totally invaluable to someone else. And that's what we bring to the table every single time when we're going out to do things, and yourself included, because you've learned all the things from me. And that's what gives you that knowledge and expertise. How many people have that person mentoring them?
None I know.
No one.
Not at that level.
No one, not at that level at all. Not even close to it, minuscule to it. So when you slow down to speed up, allow yourself to take a steadier pace in exchange for a degree of control and focus on the work as a whole. And we've talked about this, what slow down to speed up means, but what does it mean to you, Richard? Just in general terms, that's all.
Yeah, I think it's really it's the best way for you to kind of take that step back, really think about things, and it really increases how productive you are and how efficient you could actually carry something out. And like you say, that steadier pace, Jim, rather than just running and feet first, breakneck speed. Do you know what I mean?
Stop. You get nothing with doing that.
Yeah.
Just what you said there, Richard. The steadier pace is what wins the day every single time. It's the tortoise and the hare. Oh my God, I can go back to my primary school days. I would kiss my teacher now. It's like,
I tried to find.
Thank God you taught me that lesson.
I was going to put that as the graphics for this show, and I couldn't find the right one.
Thank God you taught me that lesson at school. If I was learning anything at school, it was the story of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
And the fact that the hare was stop, start, and the tortoise just slowly got on with it every single time. And they slowed down to ultimately speed up.
Yeah.
Because the tortoise ended up winning. And that's what you should be doing. That's the whole point of this. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon every single time.
Yeah.
It's a long game. Look at the Chinese. Let's take a bit of slow down to speed up with the Chinese. Look at TikTok. TikTok in the West is all about twerking, people wiggling their bums and making arses of themselves and actually doing funny jokes. Do you know what TikTok is in China? TikTok is an educational tool for the younger generation to learn from. And you don't get anything like that on there at all. It's actually called a different name from TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yes. And it's all about education. And everything that goes on there is educational. It's your teachers on TikTok at the school classes, showing experiments, showing how to do agricultural, showing how to do everything else. And that's all people get to see on TikTok in China.
Just like all these wee snippets.
Yeah. There's nothing like we see in the West. Do you think China is playing the long game?
Yeah.
Absolutely. China's got every intention of being the biggest economy by 2035. Now, whether they succeed or not is another story, because there's a theory that they're possibly going the same way as Japan, and they're causing a problem for themselves because they can't. They need massive growth every single year. 2% to them is nothing. 2% to us, like, yoo-hoo, get the brass band out, because we're 2% growth. To China, 2% growth, like, oh my God, we're failing, because their economy can't sustain that. Plus the fact the number of people getting born in China is actually going down for the first time ever, and they need more people to sustain their economy, just like we do. So this is a problem with the population decline. And actually, what happened to Japan 20 years ago, the value of a house now compared to 20 years ago in Japan, is 6 times less. Hi, exactly. That'll get you worried as a property investor. Oh my God. It's like, that is quite worrying. But that they've got a different economic situation. That's fine. But you have to learn some lessons for that. But it's interesting. China plays the long game every single time, and they're not bothered. But how they're doing it, and we don't know about it, because they're keeping it to themselves. They've got every plan to slow down. They want to be the hare, the tortoise. They don't want to be the hare. They don't want to be the quick growth people. They know, and they've got all planned out exactly what they want to do and how they want to educate the workforce. So you tell me, Richard, in your opinion, what do you think are the 3 disadvantages to moving far too fast?
Yeah, moving far too fast. I mean, whether that's in life, in business, if you're in a leadership role or anything, moving too fast, you could really, your work could suffer, and your self of well-being could really decrease as well. And that brings me, like, the number one thing I think from moving too fast, you could really create yourself a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And you've got a higher propensity towards having errors if you're moving too fast, and miscommunication. There's an increased amount of miscommunication when you're trying to do things too fast. You're not relaying things properly to your team or your partner or whatever you're doing. And I think these for me are the 3 main disadvantages for moving too fast and doing things.
You ever heard this phrase before? I just work all the hours going. I work everything for that person, and he or she doesn't appreciate me.
Yeah, I hear that.
How many times have we all thought that about our boss? But have you ever thought to that point at the fact that the information you're giving them is actually inaccurate sometimes?
Yeah.
And they're needing to keep telling you to take it back. It's the classic example. It's how efficient you are. You're paid for efficiency. You're paid for results. Sometimes I'll look at our viewing schedule. When I they're going out in viewings, a classic example is that person has to go out in viewings. They go out and do viewings. It's like they've got that traveling journey to get there, then they've got to travel all the way back. They've got to travel back to get there, and they've got to travel all the way back. And by the time you work out the travel to get there and the travel back, literally they're only productive 50% of the day. Everything else is traveling and preparing. It's like that is complete. That is unproductive completely.
Yeah.
Now, do you think the likelihood of a boss saying, "Yeah, okay, I should give that person a salary rise"? It's like, no.
For driving about, being busy or making
This
themselves
is that person, yeah, busy fool. Busy fool, that's what it comes down to. You're paid for the results that you can get and the business you can generate. That's what everybody's paid for. And that is invaluable to anyone, to an employer, to a bank, to a business partner, to a life partner, to anything else. It's the results. It's the important point. And within the time frame you've got. And this is the more results you can get is the more efficient you get. But the more efficient you get, it's all about slowing down to just get it right. Because in that instance, in that instance for the diary should have been looked at and says, okay, wait a minute, I'm going back to the same place in the day, so I'm traveling and I'm wasting almost 2 or 3 hours in terms of that time. That doesn't make sense. Why do I not just get these people to coincide with that person and actually just do them all at the same time? And that eliminates 3 hours, makes me more productive because I can come back to the office now and I can now spend 3 hours doing this or that or on the phones and talking to people.
Yeah, I mean, that's something.
That's what people are paid for. That's why you look at someone else in a business and everybody goes, how come they got promoted? Why have I not got promoted? I've been here for 20 years. They've only been here for 20 minutes. Why are they promoted? That's exactly why they're promoted. Reality check for everybody, and myself included.
Yeah, because you could do, I mean, it's all about getting the same results and in a less amount of time. Because, like you say, it's the busy fool thing. And somebody be like, oh, I work all the hours going and I work till X amount of hours at night and things. And it's like, but did you really need to do that up till 11 o'clock last night? You could have got that done then. And do you know, and it's that kind of approach and being more smart with how you utilize your time to get the right results.
I appreciate people that are smart, people that slow down to speed up, people that are actually efficient at what they do. I don't appreciate inefficiency. And that's a classic example when you look at anybody's work day or diary or anything like that, and you see it's all over the place and it's been very reactive rather than proactive. And that's kind of how I try to do it myself. I just try to be so productive in terms of what I'm doing, and I take a step back sometimes and think, is that the best use of my time during
Yeah.
the day, or should I be doing that, or should I be doing this before I do that, and in order to do it? And that comes with practice. Efficiency comes with practice, but it certainly takes away a lot of stress. It's like what you say. It certainly takes away a lot of errors,
Yeah.
and it certainly takes away a lot of miscommunication. Communication is the key here. And
Anybody who runs a business or is involved in running a business will know communication is right up there as one of the key factors. And if it's done wrong, or if there's miscommunication, it could have a really knock-on effect throughout everybody.
So, and you could see how that cascade through. Who was it recently? The Bank of England. Yeah, I'm sure the Halifax sent out an email in error too early to announce that base rates were increasing. And everybody got to find out base rates were increasing before it was announced. And it's like, do you think that could have influenced some things?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you think that the Halifax actually got a bit of egg on their face and got a bit of a poor reputation at that time because they were castigated all over the place?
Yeah, they would have been. Yeah.
And yet, the split second, believe it or not, that was in a 15-minute window that was sent out too early. Yeah, if somebody had just thought about it and thought, wait a minute, you don't send it out the now, but there was a rush. And I bet you that person was maybe busy that day and they thought, I'll just send it out the now.
I'll do it now, and then that's it done.
Yeah.
Rather than waiting to the right time.
So you tell me then about what we've just spoken about the now. What do you think are the 3 advantages of slowing down to speed up?
Well, I think right on the back of that, communication. And when you slow down and do that things at a much more steadier pace and think things through, there's a lot better level of communication and whatever environment you're in. And that comes with pacing yourself. And then your productivity, ultimately, your productivity will improve. You'll be much more productive if you're taking your time, thinking about things, communicating properly with your team, or like you say, your partner, or whatever it is. And then basically lowers your stress levels. So it's kind of like the flip side of what the disadvantages of being too fast is.
Yeah, there's an argument for the 4-day week.
Yeah.
That's why people are saying maybe we should do the 4-day week. And the 4-day week could be something like a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and a Friday. So you have a breather in between, and it makes you the argument is it makes you more productive. Or you do over 5 days, but you only work the 4 days hours, the 32 hours over 5 days this time. So you're only working 6 hours a day. So you're maybe coming in at 10 and you're going away at 4. In that sort of context. I certainly found it a lot more productive when I had flexi time when I was at Standard Life.
Yeah.
So they just allowed you to clock in any time, clock out any time. They had core hours that you had to be there.
Yeah.
But they allowed you to basically bank your hours. So instead of going for an hour for a lunch, we just used to go for half an hour. It was mandatory because it's the legislation. You've got to have half an hour break. So whether you took 15 minutes and went away, they still deducted half an hour from you because they can't acknowledge the fact that you've got 15 minutes instead.
Yeah.
So they could have to deduct half an hour from you. But that's all we did. We went for a lunch and had half an hour and then went back to work, and then we got half an hour away earlier.
That's kind of like flexi time. Fife Council used to do that. I think they've done away with it now. But they used to do flexi time, and that's how Fife Council used to work. But
Fife Council used flexi time, and it was probably to get away with actually having everybody in the office at one point in time. They then evolved to home working, so a lot of people in Fife Council actually work from home, and they've moved them out of the offices and they're working from home. But they have the right equipment, like monitoring your mouse and stuff like that, and the movement. There was an argument about somebody had, otherwise I think move their mouse about all the time. But you kind of get around that. I don't think you can get around it that way.
I think that we've spoken about this, Jim, and the premise and the 4-day week and things. And I think probably as we move forward and things change, it probably is the way forward. But I think it will only work as long as people are still being productive and using their time properly.
It's productivity. It's productivity. In order to get a 4-day week, you still have to be just as productive in the 5-day week as you are in the 4-day week. But it does have a lot to do with slowing down to speed up and people being mature enough to realise it's not about rushing in where angels fear to tread. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread, and there's a lot of meaning in that, in terms of what it is. But it doesn't get to the point where it's perfectionist, because perfectionists will hold you back. If you try to get everything right all the time, every single time, you will never ever achieve anything. Now,
do you know anyone like that?
Well, myself included, probably me,
Yeah.
because
I'm
I'm like
guilty.
that quite a lot. But I realise I'm like that, so I change it. So I acknowledge it, I accept it, and I think about the marginal gain, and I think it's not worth it. Just get on and do it.
The thing
So
that runs in my mind when I'm like that is, you say, "It's done is better than perfect."
done is better than perfect every single time. So you're right about the better communication. Did we talk about anything else? What other benefits did we get out of this?
Yeah, communication, productivity, and then obviously reducing stress as opposed to adding to it.
Yeah.
But then I think if we've run through like obviously the disadvantages of being too fast, and then the advantages of obviously then slowing down and being in that slow down to speed up situation. And everybody think, well, that sounds great. But then the question might be, well, how do I do that? How do I actually slow down to speed up in this fast-paced, busy world that we're all in just now?
So the key to this is exactly what we just said. It is better communication. It is improved productivity. And you're right. How do I do that? How do I better communicate with people? How do I improve my productivity, myself, and with other people around about me? So your default mode, most people are in a rushed world, and the default mode is always, if I work as fast as I can, slowing down to speed up can feel quite counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So, I understood that when I started to do that in the beginning, but you've got to consider the things that you need to do to make sure you get this to action and make sure you implement this properly. But you need to be consistent and you need to be disciplined in doing it.
Yeah.
So it is actually meeting with your teams, meeting with people that you're working with and partnership working, and asking your other teammates for feedback about how you can all pace out your work to prevent anyone from getting too overwhelmed. Because it's all very well saying, I can be productive and I can get more work done, but if the other person is not in the same mindset as you, all you're doing is overloading them because you're producing more work now and they're just getting a lump on them. And now they've got, oh my God, I've got flipping heck, I've got this big burden to carry on my back now. And then they get too stressed out as a result. So you need to all sort of work in unison. How could I liken that? The gearbox in a car. Every single gear is a person, and they all know their place in that gearbox, and they all go the right speed in order to work together with each other, in order to fit together each other, in order to get the car to go as fast as possible. Could you imagine if one of the gears actually decided, I tell you what, I'm going to do something completely different?
Yeah.
Car's not moving anywhere at all. And that's why you have to get everybody to follow that sort of same mantra. And it feels like every day like a frontline battle instead of a creative exercise to get this to happen. But remember, the entire team will actually suffer if you don't get it right. So after my probably best advice is, once you've completed something in terms of what you're doing, probably go back to it. And I do this every single time anyway. I'm quite analysing every single time. You probably know that yourself. Most people will know that I'm quite analytical in what I do. But I'm very self-analytical and self-aware of how I work and how productive I am most of the time, because I've just now adopted that as a default mode for me. So it's easy for me to feed back to myself exactly, could I have done this better? Could I have streamlined this better? And in order to take the pressure off of moving so fast in that. The key here is, though, and the reason I'm stopping right now is because the stress levels. Because when I start to talk about something, I get very intense and it comes across like that.
Take a second, yeah.
Yeah, but I hear it here. I feel it here in my head. So I take a deep breath just now and I just let it wash through my system. And that's called paying attention to your stress levels.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing right now, because I could feel it. I could feel it here. I could feel it in my eyes, and just that pause for a minute so I can take a breath. I can re-energize myself, and then it just dissipates. I actually feel it flowing through my system and just going away. So pay attention to your stress levels. If you work too fast and start to feel stressed out, remember this can cloud your creativity and decision-making capabilities. When you feel the symptoms of stress, probably the most important thing to say is heed them of the sign that you've got to take a break.
Yeah.
I could happily go on and work for the rest of the day, but right after this, I know I'm going to have something to eat, because I'll get to 4 o'clock or something like that, and I'll be zonked. I won't be able to have played the long game because I've been the hare for a change.
Yeah.
I've just sped and run and run and run, and then I've had to stop. Now, I tell you a good one that shows me this classic example is when I go to swim a mile in the pool on a Wednesday morning. You get everybody, the people that start to begin with, and I'm in the pool and I'm going back forward. I'm maybe about 300 meters, 400 meters into it, but you get the shining stars that come in, and they're going hell for leather trying to overtake me. And yes, they'll maybe overtake me for a moment, but then after about me doing about 400, and then I'm doing 500, 600, 700, they've maybe done 400, but they're puffed out and they have to stop.
Yeah.
And they have to wait for a while. When I'm still sitting going back and forward all the time. And there's a surprise there, and there's no surprise there actually, in the fact that I usually do an hour's worth of swimming, and it's all over for them in 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Elaine said, but maybe they've only got 20 minutes in the pool. And I'm like, no, they've buggled themselves. They've just gone far too fast. They've gone and blown themselves out. And this is a key strategy a lot of people actually don't identify in industry or in whatever they're doing. They peak too early. Remember when we stood out at the ABBA concert, and the ABBA at the Voyage in London, and everybody was dancing about and the music was going on outside, and Perry turned round to me at one point and said, "What's wrong with you?" Because I was very somber, and I said to her,
Reserving my energy.
I'm just biding my time. Aye. And I said to her, I don't want to peak too early.
Yeah.
Now, was it any surprise to you when we got in there that I managed to do 10,000 steps?
No, because you didn't stop the whole time we were in.
Because I didn't want to peak too early. I didn't want to use all my adrenaline and all my
Before you even get in
endorphins
there in the start,
at the start in that queue. Because it's like, I'm not even in there yet, and I'll have peaked before I got in. So I want to use it when I get in there. So there's a right time to use the right endorphin. Look at how I'm using my body chemicals, the natural endorphins that you've got within you, and the natural chemicals that you can use to benefit you in terms of what you're doing, in terms of how you feel.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins talks about it. You know, if you're in a bad mood, you can change it in a heartbeat. You can pick yourself up straight away in a heartbeat. You can change every single time just by your tonality and also by the way you stand. If you go right now from a hunch and take yourself back and breathe yourself in, you'll feel your body changing straight away.
Yeah.
If you put your hands up above like that, you'll feel your body changing straight away as well. Do you know why? Because that's a celebration pose.
Your mind associates it
automatically. Your mind automatically switches you on because it's a switch, it's a trigger. If you go to a concert, your hands go up in the air every single time, and your mind has actually indoctrinated itself into Pavlov's dog. You know, ring the bell, dog salivates, even though there's no food. That's what it is. You've now trained yourself to be Pavlov's dog. You've now trained yourself. When you put your hands above your head, you now get endorphins rush to your head now because it's associated as a trigger with a concert experience and enjoyment. Why do you think people stand in church and put their hand above like that and go, oh my God? And everybody goes, what's wrong with them? It's like they're getting that high at the same time. They're getting that high. They're right out there and they're getting more enjoyment out of it than you are. That's what you should be doing. You should be going, they're getting more enjoyment out of this than me. Why is that? What do I need to do to get that? That's the type of things you need to do. So that's the key here. So help yourself, give yourself a lift. If you've got these stress signs and these stress, stress signs and stress indicators, then take that break, spend a few minutes in meditation. I always take that deep breath.
Yeah.
and hold it and let it out. That's a kendo thing, believe it or not.
Yeah.
See, when we started kendo, in terms of when my grandmaster taught me, says you do your breathing, you bring it in and you bring it in, you hold it and you let it out and you breathe out longer than you brought it in. So quick in, long out, and hold it in between. And that changes everything completely.
They're even such an important thing for just the way you breathe when you're doing exercises, when you're running, when you're doing things like kendo, for your state of mind and everything. A lot of things when you embark on learning about them, you'll find that a lot of things have incorporated into it, the way you breathe. And when you're running, I think is it in through your nose and out through your mouth when you're running?
In through your nose, out through your mouth. If you're wanting to train your body to get better for running, in through your nose, because it restricts your oxygen going in.
Yep.
Therefore, your body has to grow to gather more oxygen into your blood and into your muscles. So that's why you do it, and then you breathe out through your mouth. If you continually breathe into your mouth, your body's not getting trained to grow any more cardiovascular system to be able to sustain your muscles to run longer and faster.
Yeah, breathing techniques are not good for me.
That's why you see somebody with a mask when they're on these athletes, when they're on running treadmills, they put a mask on them, but they're checking their oxygen levels and stuff like that as well. But they're also restricting the oxygen intake because they're actually helping them grow their body, so it actually sustains like that. That's why people in high altitude locations end up being the better runners. Because they're in high altitude locations, and when they come down to run in a low altitude, therefore they've got all this oxygen in their body and their muscles are fed straight away, and they're like, boom, they're off. So that's the kind of things you train yourself with in there. This is why in lockdown, for people that were in apartments, I was actually telling them, stick your head out the window and take a deep breath outside. Don't sit in the house all the time. If we can't go out the door, you've got no garden, so stick your head out the window and just change your circumstances, change your environment. Stick your head out the window and just take a deep breath of fresh air.
Deep breaths, and
this will make sure that you're more capable of hitting the ground running every day without experiencing burnout. That's probably
the big thing.
Yeah, and I know a lot about burnout.
Yeah.
Several times.
That's when people just keep doing everything so fast and breakneck speed and just rushing through everything, whether it be life or work or anything, you eventually burn out. And if you really burn out, it could be quite a tricky situation to get yourself back out of.
Aye, but then that's the old thing about people. You see on videos and you see on films and that about it's probably the phrase about I'll rest when I die, and I used to buy into that mantra. I'll have plenty of time to rest when I'm 6 foot under. Well, you'll be 6 foot under quicker. I'll put it that way if you keep doing this. So I'm not telling anybody out there not to work outside of normal operating hours, because your day-to-day job is what provides for your living. What you do outside of that provides for your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because if you just keep doing your day-to-day job like everybody else, and you're not doing anything outside of that, you'll just get the same results as everybody else. Unless you're actually got a strategy for your day-to-day living. Now, the boys, I spoke to them last night, and I went, the stock market's down at 7.2. I says, boys, and including Tony as well, my daughter, I says, you need to stick some money in your pension now. Because the stock market's quite at a low level, and this is probably the opportunity to capitalise on it when it goes back up, and it'll be locked into your pension. And Scott says, we've already done that. I've put the maximum in for the year. And I went, good lad.
That's good, yeah.
Because I'm no daft, and they're no daft, and the fact that I'm teaching them these things that they need to do. But that's what young people need to do right now. I know it's boring for them, and they just want the money now, and they want to spend it all, and they want to go on fantastic holidays. But we're getting temporarily ambitious to be permanently lazy. Yeah. That's how I see my lot. Temporarily ambitious, be permanently lazy. And so when everybody else is working because they can't afford to retire, my lot will be retired at 55-year-old.
Yeah.
Probably before that. But they'll be able to draw down their pension at 55-year-old. Now, it might be a bit longer because they might change the rules a bit, but that's fine. But they'll have something to draw down, and they'll have something for later, because everybody's living longer. Everybody's having children later on in life now.
Yeah.
Ian and I talked about it this morning. You know, it's like, how come like our kids are like 30 now and they've not got kids yet? I would have had 2 kids by now. I did.
Yeah.
I would have had 3 by now. It's like, you know, that sort of thing. It's like, what's going on? Is everybody leaving it till last minute? And that's effectively it, because we're living longer. It is true about the new 40 years ago is like the new 50. As it is today. You know, there's people out there, because we're a lot more healthier now. We're going to live a lot longer, and
I mean, the
we're going
50
to
is the new 40.
yeah, 50 is the new 40. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, you knew what I mean.
Yeah.
And this is about what the final thing, and I think you touched on it earlier about seeking the balance, about the slowing
Yeah.
down to speed up, and finding that balance between efficiency and effectiveness, the marginal gains. So, is it really important that you get that extra 0.5%, but it's going to cost you a huge amount of time in order to get that? Is it really that important? And in most occasions, the answer to that is no, it's not that important.
No, because it's going to leave you stressed, and that, like, you'll probably end up suffering burnout, and it means you're placing a really high premium on speed rather than the quality of something that you're producing, or your own self-care as well.
Well, the alternative side of that is, if you feel like constantly procrastinating or working in slow motion, you may want to work more efficiently if you're doing it. In either case, the bottom line is to seek out the balance constantly. Constantly recalibrating. This is what I told you. This is how I'm self-analytical and self-critical sometimes about where I am and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, and can I make it more efficient if I do this again? And that's how the process. This is why I talk about the process of me buying a house and renting it as a turnkey operation. It's literally just a blueprint I use every single time, and I don't think there's any other way I can make it any more efficient than it is now. Because I know exactly what I should be doing in order to maximize every single gain out of this completely, but not get to the point where I'm losing on marginal gains, because effectively it's like, I tell you what, I'll re-engineer the whole house before I start. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you've lost about 4 months or 5 months rent then and doing that. So it's cost you another £3,000 or something. But it's even cost you more, because you're ripping the whole house apart and you're actually not getting the full benefit of that back overall in the valuation at the end, because of the marginal gains about just doing a slight refurb compared to a full refurb, which you can't get a tenant in. A light refurb, you can get a tenant in probably straight away while you're doing it. But you would want to do it at the time when you're buying it as well. So conclude the missives as quick as possible, and make it conditional when concluding the missives as quick as possible to the seller, that I'll conclude as quick as possible, but you need to let me in to refurb the property, do a light refurb on it. So then you're showing people the property at the same time to let. Somebody else owns it now, but you've concluded, so you're getting it anyway, to the point that they're actually moving into the house on the day that you get the keys. How more efficient can you get the rent?
We've done a few
to start from day one,
and we're in the door once missives are concluded. Yeah,
this is why you're taking people around on refurbs. It's like, we're refurbing this property now. It's going to be available at the end of this month. You know, if you're wanting it, give us a shout. Put your application in. Put the application in. So the refurb's finished. As soon as the refurb's finished, more or less somebody's moving in. Job done. Imagine the amount of people that actually go ahead and they refurb a property, and they don't actually think about the efficiency of the critical path in it, and then they end up, then they get the keys for it and they go, right, now we need to start the refurb. It's like, oh God, really? It's like, no.
Yeah, also there's another one. There's one recently. I think it should be just about finished, but I think we've already got somebody in line for it to move in.
Of course you do. Every single time you want to have somebody lined up before you've even finished the job. In either case, the bottom line, again, recalibrate, consistency, and constantly investing. And when you need to, it's really so you can work as happily as productive as possible. Remember, when I say happily, I mean contently. I don't mean, woohoo, we're always happy in our job. It's like, I realize there's days that I just I can't be bothered. I just don't want to get up. I didn't want to get up this morning for running, but my body was telling me, you're flipping running this morning, pal.
Yeah.
It's like, you're going out running. It's a Monday morning. Get off your backside and get running. So effectively, I just went out and ran. And I tell you what, it felt fantastic this morning.
I was going to say, it's a nice morning for it.
Yeah, it felt fantastic. Even though it was peeing in rain, it would still feel fantastic, because there's a huge difference to your mindset when you get out there. And what happens when you run is all the chemicals and endorphins are released up to here. And it's called a runner's high. And that's what makes a fundamental difference in terms of running. Even out walking. There was a guy that passed me and he was walking, and I felt like stopping him and saying to him, like, you know, do you realise at some point in time that you'll probably want to run a wee bit? Now, I don't expect you to run 5K, but what to do is just focus on maybe the lamppost ahead of you and run to there and then just walk again. And that's how you start. But that's how you start in everything that you do. This is all about slowing down and just getting it right in order to speed up overall at the end of it. That's what it is in a nutshell.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you touched on about balance and seeking the right balance, and I think that's got a big part to play in it. Whether you're in work or it is your personal life or anything, in any aspect, that balance is really important, Jim. And just finding that ability to bring yourself back, slow down, and that will allow you to speed up in a lot of different aspects in terms of productivity and efficiency and things. And that's basically what we were trying to get across today in today's message. So hopefully that was clear enough for everybody. And if you do run about at breakneck speed and do everything so quickly, maybe it'll make you think about, like, okay, I'm going to take a step back.
Do we know? See, for next week, we're going to talk about. You don't know this yet, but we're going to talk about the 5 most powerful laws in the world. The 5 most powerful laws in the world. We're going to talk about that, because I tell you what, once you find out what these laws are and you understand how powerful they are in your life, it'll make a fundamental difference overall. So we're going to talk about the 5 most powerful laws in the world. In the world, it's like, wow, it's not just in Fife. It's like in the world. Timeless content again. This stuff's going to be applicable because this stuff has been around for years, but it literally is the 5 most powerful laws in the world.
Well, that'll be a good one for me as well, because I don't know what they are. So tune in next Monday, 12:30, and we'll run through.
After this.
Well, you will, yeah. You'll need to.
Bye for now, folks.
Right, Jim. Thank you.